Awkward delay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Illinois Green Party series. I am your host, David Rich. We have two very special guests tonight. We have from Rise Up for Abortion Rights, the organization, we have Jay Becker. Hello, Jay.
Hi, Dave.
Hello. And then Sarah Schwartz. Sarah, how are you?
Hello, doing good. How about you?
All right, doing great. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's get right into it because we got a lot to talk about. This is a very timely conversation for sure. Very important and urgent conversation since a few months ago we all know that the Supreme Court got rid of Roe versus Wade, the federal standing of abortion rights, and just allocated it back to the states. And there, we could talk a lot about why they did that and the whole notion of originalism and the Constitution and blah blah blah. Anyway, but we'll save that for later. And now we have like right away we had many states who made abortion illegal. Like literally, that was called something. What was that called? Like the second.
Well, they had trigger bans.
Trigger bans. Thank you. Right. As soon as the Supreme Court decided, boom, it was illegal in a whole bunch of states. Some of them, with the exception of rape and incest, some of them not. Like no exceptions at all. I mean, wow. Okay, and just to like put all this in perspective, as we were discussing before the show, there was like a handful of states that just voted on slavery in 2021, in 2022 here in America, and one of them actually voted not to shut it down. So, yeah. Anyway, so Jay, why don't you start us off by telling us a bit about Rise Up for Abortion Rights, your organization, your participation in it, and however you want to take it from there.
Yeah. Well, Rise Up for Abortion Rights started in January after the Supreme Court hearing on December 1st of last year on what became the Dobbs decision. Yep. It was clear to anyone who listened that they were planning on overturning Roe. Right. Before that debate, could they, would they, precedent, no. It was very, until after December 1st, nothing. There was nothing going on. No one in the streets. We were being told by the Democratic Party and the big pro-choice organizations, just wait till November. We're going to vote them out. We're going to pay. Well, that was completely unacceptable. And it was Rise Up came together as a resistance to demand of the Supreme Court overturn Roe. Hell no. And we started out on January 22nd, the anniversary of Roe, which again, we were the only pro-choice people, pro-abortion people protesting in DC on January 22nd. That's outrageous. And, we organized tens of thousands of students in walkouts around the country. We had protests around the country. We had, shut shit down, professional basketball games. The mega churches disrupted their services, chanting "My Body, My Choice," got on national news. Banner drops at Yankee Stadium, here at Wrigley Field. Calling on people, flood the streets. Now is the time. Supreme Court has to worry about their legitimacy too, as they are correctly worried about now. Yeah. And we didn't succeed. I'll put a link in the comments of a video clip of just a compilation of clips. I'm quite proud of what we did. I think it was really important, even though we didn't succeed. We set a poll, we set a standard. We're learning from our sisters and siblings in Latin America that's how you win. And we'll get into that later. So that's where Rise Up for Abortion Rights came from.
All right, great. Real quick, we have Marsha Ra'anan saying hi, Jay and all. Hello, Marsha. Thanks for joining us here. Okay, Sarah, you want to talk a bit about how you got involved with this?
Of course. So for me, I have always been kind of, watching how women's rights are being treated in politics, everything about how they're treating contraceptives. So I've always kind of been paying attention to that. And then a little bit before July 4th, I had seen the banner drop videos coming up on TikTok, and I was like, I've got to be part of this. And I mean, when I heard the overturning of Roe happened, I was literally at work crying. Like,
Yeah.
this can't be. Like, I knew it was going to happen. Like I said, we were already protesting. There was already stuff happening, but we already knew. So I decided I wanted to be a part of this group, that I wanted to be a part of a movement, be a part of change, because it's not a right if you can take it away. Like, Roe wasn't enough. Roe wasn't protected enough to protect us. So it's, for me, I want to be the change. So that is why I joined the group. Sorry, I keep moving my camera. But that is pretty much why I joined the group, and why it's so like powerful for me. And like, as a woman who doesn't have kids, but I've raised a lot of kids, like, been a nanny, I know how hard it is to raise kids.
What's that noise coming from?
I don't know.
I'm in.
Let me turn off each person's mic. It goes, the song goes away when I turn off your mic.
I'm in a room all by myself. This
It
is
sounds like
bizarre.
there's a vacuum going. Weird. Okay. Well, I guess we just have to deal with it for now. Okay, great. Yeah, no, I liked what you said, but it's not a right if you can take it away. I'm gonna go. I say this almost every single show, but I'm gonna say it again because it's appropriate. I know very few people that can actually give me an accurate definition of a right. Now, if you look into the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and just type in rights, and if you go to any sort of dictionary, a right is a moral allowance for behavior. That's what it is. A right is a right because it's right. Okay. That has nothing to do with governments. Governments do not allocate rights to people. You already have them. Just by being a moral agent, you have access to good and bad, if you will. So this whole notion that you have 9 people sitting with robes on, they get to determine the behavioral patterns of hundreds of millions of other people is absolutely ridiculous. And we can go on into like how stupid the Constitution is, or we can just, because a lot of people think that that a right is something that governments gives its people. It's not. It has nothing. Governments have nothing to do with it. So anyway, that's my little anarchist rant. I want to hear more about the shutdowns and and protests and stuff like that. Anything that comes immediately to mind that you kind of like this one really got them?
Well, that's what the video will describe it a lot better than I can with words. Okay. You're doing following a long tradition. As I suspect you are aware, no right that we have at this point was won by voting. None.
No.
The right to vote was not won by voting. The suffragettes, with whatever differences we may have 100 years later, they went on hunger strikes. They were arrested. Some of them were murdered.
Yep.
They had sit-ins to get the right to vote. Okay. The quote from Frederick Douglass, if you want the harvest, but not the storm, right? Power concedes nothing without a fight.
Right.
We base ourselves on that understanding. The right to abortion was not won by electing Democrats, okay? I know I was involved in the fight for abortion before Roe, and here we are after Roe. It's just outrageous. And you're right. The Supreme Court did not overturn Roe because of any law, any originalist BS. It was because that was why they were there, with their Christian fascist ideology, throwing women back. They are determined to overturn what modest reforms we won in the last 50 years. And it's women now, and they've made it very clear what's next. LGBTQ rights, Obergefell. They have a list of them. They're going to overturn it. Yeah. The right to sex with who you want, the right to marry who you want, the right to birth control. All of that is already out on the table, and that's where they're going for. And that's why this is this is a battle for all of us, people. It is for women. It is for anyone who can get pregnant. It is for anyone who loves justice, because that's what it is. If we have one of our slogans, forced motherhood is female enslavement.
Yes, I saw that today. Yeah.
And it's true. When the government or a man can tell you, or a doctor, a lawyer can tell you, no, what you can and can't do about your life, whether you decide when and if to have a child. And the stories are just, I think it's getting normalized.
Yeah.
But seriously, a 10-year-old survivor of rape has to travel hundreds of miles because she's 3 days late with their stupid little heartbeat bill, which is not a heartbeat. I hope your audience knows. It's just an electrical impulse. There's no heartbeat at 6 weeks, okay? Or the woman from, I think it was Texas, who had to carry a dead fetus for 3 weeks. Not is that it totally inhumane, outrageous, degrading, and incredibly dangerous. Women have died from that. Sepsis. It's refusing to treat ectopic pregnancies that burst and again can take a woman's extremely painful, but can also take a woman's life. And just, I don't know if some of the people watching are on social media, but there's more and more stories of what's the drug called methotrexate, which is used to treat a lot of very serious autoimmune diseases, but it also could endanger a fetus. So women of childbearing age are being denied prescriptions. They're not even pregnant, but they could get pregnant, so they're being denied their prescriptions and having to fight with their pharmacist to get a prescription that they've had in some cases for months and years. This has happened all the way from 8-year-old girl to a woman in her 50s. This is, it's a degradation of women and people who can get pregnant around the country, everyone, not only in those. There's 13 states where it's banned, it's illegal. There are 8 states that it's been criminalized, but the ban is not being enforced because of they're fighting in the courts. There's a temporary restraining order. That's 21 states already. And it was great that the 5 states where it was on the ballot that they passed it, but it didn't change that equation.
Right.
There's no new people. No one new got the right to abortion through this past election. We'll get into the midterms later, but we need to remind ourselves and other people just what it means that we have lost. Like Sarah said. It should be, let's not forget the shock.
Yeah. Sarah?
Every time I think about it, I'm like, how is our right on a ballot? How is my body on a ballot right now? I think it was Dr. Oz who said it, like, the choice is between you, your doctor, and your local politician. And I'm just like, so am I calling up the local politician as I'm in the doctor's office? And I'm like, hey,
is this okay with you?
Are you cool with this?
It's pretty annoying that we have to get somebody else's permission to make a choice in our life. It's ridiculous. Oh, sorry.
It's like having to call my mom or my dad for everything. Like, oh, hey, exactly. Mom, can I go shopping? Like, can I go play with it's my life. Like, no, if I don't want to have a baby, I'm not going to have a baby. It's not up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
What I think is the most scary that I think what I've heard lately is rapists can choose the mother of their child now in many states. I mean, if you think about it, if you can't get an abortion, it's completely illegal and you have no means of travel. If your rapist picked you, that's very unfortunate. Like that's the reality. That's the reality with the ban.
That is the reality. I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely correct.
It is. It's really frightening. You're right. I mean, It's not a right if a majority or even a minority, in this case, it's a decided minority, can take it away. That's not a right.
That's another thing too, is that like 80% of the country are pro-choice. So this is, if this is a democracy, the government is supposed to reflect the majority. That's what democracy means. Individual rights even aside, that's how it's supposed to go, and it's not. It's reflecting 20%, and that's not okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sure many of your viewers or Green Party people realize that this country never has been that kind of a democracy.
No.
It's all, it was founded on slavery. Come on. It's founded on genocide.
It's genocide and slavery. Yep.
The blood and bones of
America.
Yeah, America. And, women weren't even there, and Bible only counts as property of the slave owners. So this is the history. And after the Civil War supposedly freed the slaves, back to Jim Crow, because the economy depended on that kind of exploitation.
Right.
And when you're talking about women, you're talking about patriarchy going back millennia. Now it's all wrapped up with capitalism, but this system can't exist without women's second class citizenship. And now you've got a section of the ruling class that's out to enforce that. The revenge. There's a lot of revenge in this. I'll hold on.
No, you're absolutely correct. The whole notion of patriarchy, how it's dominated most cultures for most of human existence, is not all of it. There's plenty of examples of matriarchies in the books. I'm actually wearing my Isis t-shirt right now, who's a goddess. Patriarchy is extremely dangerous. And again, I remember since I was a child, like how it baffled me that like somebody had to get permission for somebody else to like do something. Like I never understood that. Like, what do you mean somebody freed the slaves? Weren't they already free? In an abstract sense, at least. Everybody's born free. It's other people that put you in chains. And this whole notion that like, Abraham Lincoln was so great because he freed the slaves. I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just a very strange thing for me to think. The 3/5 law in the article, and it's in the articles, not the amendments. It's in the foundations of the Constitution that people that slaves were 3/5 of a human being, and it always baffled me too that you get to just sort of like scribble it on a piece of parchment, and all of a sudden, poof, there's slavery.
Well, and we're still in that system, right? The Electoral College was established like that 3/5 rule to make sure that the slave states could never be overturned by elections, that to make sure their power was sufficient to hold the capitalists, the non-slave states in check. And we still have that. The couple thousand people living in Wyoming have 2 senators, just like the 30-some million in California. Well, that's a very conservative force, right? It's not about democracy. It's about maintaining control. And now we're at a stage where it's being utilized by a really blind, fanatic, violent Christian fascist movement in and outside of office. And abortion is the battering ram. This is not the end. This is the beginning. If we don't friggin' stand up and stop this in our millions, boom, 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 we're going to keep getting hit by it.
Yeah, and it's like it was just such a travesty to watch during the Trump administration. Like he just replayed, like watching the judges go, and like we're like, oh my god, three judges. That's insane. So
all coming from Christian background.
All coming from and each one said on record that they wouldn't touch Roe. Each one of them lied their faces off. I think lying is a sin too, isn't it? So, like, let's talk about Christian fascism. or you like what Christian nationalism, Christian fashion, or conservatism. That seems to be the underpinning to this entire issue, including other issues as well, anti LGBTQ laws, everything. I mean, this I noticed too that like every time this our society is trying to fight to progress to become more progressive, to allocate more, or to allow more rights for more people, we're always fighting against Christians. Since like slavery. There was an entire book written by a Christian pastor on how to use Christianity to convert the slaves so that they would be more docile and passive and submissive. Because if you read the Bible, it's very much, in a lot of ways, very pro-slavery. It uses the slavery metaphor of slavery for like your relationship with God or Jesus. You're supposed to be a slave to Jesus. What the hell is that? What kind of metaphor is that? It's a terrible metaphor. You shouldn't be a slave to anybody ever. So do you want to speak to that, either of you?
Sarah?
Sarah?
Because I mean, that's kind of the whole thing where you kind of stop with the forced motherhood is female enslavement. Like, it's not. Your personhood is being put on the line. That is so loud.
That is loud.
Are you vacuuming over there, Jay?
There's something going on with your microphone or something.
It's so bizarre. Never had that.
Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. You have a speaker on?
No.
Okay,
Just my microphone.
Sometimes there's a loop is caused if you have a microphone and a speaker too close to each other. Okay. I don't know what it is.
Oh, you mean external speaker? No. No. Nope.
How are you hearing
Sorry.
the podcast? Jay, how are you hearing the podcast?
I'm just hearing it live through my computer.
Okay.
The speaker on there, that is not a separate one.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm just gonna mute your mic when Sarah or I are talking. How's that?
Great. Fine.
Okay. All right, Sarah, go ahead.
Oh gosh, what we're talking about again?
Christian evilness.
Where was I with that point?
You were talking about the enslaved.
Yeah. So for what they keep pushing is that it's a person already. As soon as it's conceived, it's already it's a person. But yet it doesn't. You can't get support for it. You can't do welfare. You can't take out a life insurance policy on it. You can't get support from a partner. They kept denying all those other things. So is it a person? It's not a person. It's always back and forth, up and for debate. But how is it for debate if their moral high ground says it's a baby? I think I was talking to Jay about this the other day, that Lindsey Graham it's a baby as soon as it's conceived. But then a month later turns around and he's like, but 15 weeks seems like a good amount. That seems like a good band time. It never makes sense. Nothing lines up.
Yeah, the arguments are always wanting, for sure. Jay?
Yeah, I think the logic of the Dobbs decision is the criminalization of abortion. And this fetal personhood is making the rounds. I believe there's only one or two states there's several states that have incorporated it into other laws. But that, and in the hearing, the oral argument about Dobbs, they were throwing, like Kavanaugh was throwing around, balancing the rights against the woman. No, a fetus is not a baby. Okay, a zygote is not a baby. Abortion is not murder, but it's extremely dangerous. That concept is the doorway to criminalizing all abortion, because once you start that balance, then that life is going to override that of the mother, and you're back to the pregnant person. You're back to forced motherhood. That is the next that's the next stage. And I think that same logic argues against returning it to the states. I think that's a very temporary cover for their pretty open agenda of criminalizing, banning abortion nationwide. Right. That's what, and whether it's 15 weeks or 2 or whatever, that Lindsey Graham put it out there. He said it out loud, and that's what they plan on doing. Whether it's through the Congress or the Supreme Court, that is their agenda, and we better friggin' rise up and stop it. Make that impossible. Make them pay the price through non-violent disruption action. That's where it's going.
Yeah. Do you have, via your organization, any sort of connections with people in higher ups in politics that you can that will advocate for you, or are you like a ground level grassroots movement right now?
We're grassroots.
Okay. Which is great. No, that's great, because grassroots is where it should be. But I didn't know, I'm friends with one of the Illinois state representatives here. But she's one person, I get in her ear a bunch, but whatever. I just know, if you had attachments like that, connections like that, where I saw in your video on your website, there was something with Mark Ruffalo, the guy who plays the Hulk. He's a huge environmentalist, and he's big into all these, very liberal issues. And is he somebody that supports your organization specifically, or is that just a video of him at some events?
No, he came to a couple actions in New York.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I know he's spoken about his daughters. I think he has daughters who are teenagers, perhaps. I don't know how old they are, but his commitment to this issue is very personal as well as very public. So, yeah, with Eve Ensler has spoken. Has spoken at our rallies. A woman who's like the equivalent of an alderperson in New York has spoken at their New York rallies. So we welcome everyone. It's everyone who wants to demand legal abortion nationwide without apology. When we really legal abortion nationwide, we're being balkanized. I'm in Illinois, I don't have to worry. Too bad about Indiana and Missouri. No.
Yeah. So that being said, let's talk about the election. Definitely no red wave. Maybe a red, sprinkle, if even that. It's not more like a mist or a spit on the sidewalk. Which is good. I mean, obviously, I'm a member of the Green Party. I don't vote. I mean, when I have to, but I didn't have any Green Party candidates to vote for this term, so I voted. Excuse me. However, Biden even said that he doesn't think that it's going to work out where they're going to be able to federally create a federal law that protects abortion rights, even with it turning out the way it has. Anyway, Sarah, have you heard about this? Have you?
I haven't heard this.
You haven't heard this? Okay.
Well, they have had, the Democrats under Clinton and under Obama had many opportunities where they could have codified Roe, and they did not. We were talking all summer long, demanding that Biden use all the power, and still today, use the power of the federal government to declare this as a national health emergency. They can do that for monkeypox, but they can't do it for abortion. There are so many things that the federal government could be doing right now that they are not. No, we're supposed to go vote, and that's going to take care of it. No, we saw this coming. Our position, Rise Up, has said, look, whatever you do, you vote, you don't vote, whoever, that's not going to solve it. There's no cheap tickets here, okay? There's no easy shortcuts. We're going to have to sacrifice. We're going to have to throw down over this. And the elections are I don't know. I mean, I feel like, of course, I'll just say to myself, of course, we're happy that there are not more fascists in Congress and the Senate and state houses. But there are a lot of them, okay? There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
This is so not over. This is so not over. They have developed a mass, fanatic, violent base that is beyond even their control.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. The Republican Party is crazy right now, just absolutely insane. I mean, they've always been, inferior, I would say, to the Democratic Party in a multitude of ways, but not like this. I haven't seen something like this in my entire life. This is, I mean, holy cow. Yeah. And it's because of Trump. It's because of that psycho, their Lord and personal savior, Donald Trump. Holy cow, it's crazy. It's like a cult.
Have you seen DeSantis's commercials? It's literally about God, Jesus giving him.
There we go. Yeah, there you go. More of this Christian fascist nonsense. Yeah, he's definitely like, he's supposedly a devout Catholic. I think the Pope would like to talk to him though.
Whatever. Well,
during COVID and like not helping people during like natural disasters. He's a real loser. Right. He's a loser. He's just good with the mouth. He's quick. He's witty. That kind of thing. It's hard to challenge him intellectually, but I would love to have him on the show. Okay, so
you taking bets on that?
No, I'm not. Not yet. Even though if you can get me in touch with Mark Ruffalo, that'd be great. We'll talk later. Where are you located? Each like personally, individually.
I'm in Chicago.
Suburbs of Chicago.
Oh, you're in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. Did Rise Up for Abortion Rights start in Illinois?
No.
Okay.
Well, we were one of the. I guess the official action. The first one was January 22nd in Washington D.C. The founding people were more from the New York area, but we had chapters around the country pretty rapidly. And we were one of the early ones in Chicago, and we've had a lot of actions here. Where we are, we have to talk about the green.
Please.
The green.
We Green Party likes that color.
Yes, I thought maybe that's why we were invited, but well, Sarah, you want to give it a first whack about the green wave in Latin America?
I mean, so we kind of adopted the green from Latin America. They used it as their symbol first when they were trying to decriminalize it in the other countries. And so we adopted it as like a, standing support sisterhood of them to, push their movement, our movement. We're all fighting for rights. We're all fighting pretty much for the same thing across the board, unfortunately, even in other countries.
Okay.
We've had activists, feminists from El Salvador on our webinars here in this country that have been really inspiring. And there they have incredibly difficult situation where it's completely criminalized. We had a woman, Teodora, that a film was made of her life. She was condemned to 30 years in prison for a miscarriage.
A miscarriage. I was going to bring that up earlier. That there even
women are investigated for a stillbirth, for a miscarriage. You can't tell, and so they are prosecuted and sent to prison. And there was a huge movement to free her, and she ultimately was freed. And she didn't go back to live her life, self-care. She's in the front lines now, and we've learned from them how devastating it is for all of women around the world, and especially Latin America, that here in this country, we lost our rights. Just so people are clear, this is the most devastating loss of an established civil right in the history of this country. almost 50 years of a right that's gone. And this ripples through the world. When I was I volunteered to go to Washington, D.C., what turned out to be the last few weeks before Roe was overturned. And one of the women volunteers there was originally from Colombia. And she said the day that Dobbs dropped, these reactionaries in the Colombian legislature proposed to make abortion illegal there again.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, they're doing it in America. We're going to do it here. And Colombia is one of the countries that we admire and are inspired by. The women there, and their male supporters, all kinds of people, just flooded the streets. The churches, even. I mean, it became a mass topic.
Churches.
Wearing the green, everybody knew you wore the green, the stickers, the bandana. You were supporting women's right to abortion. And that's what we need to have happen here.
That's interesting because, I mean, different denominations of Christianity will differ in their own moral policies, if you will. But in Catholicism, it's like a huge no. Like, you don't do that. Like, I mean, flat out. So I mean, which I think explains like the massive criminality of it in El Salvador. I mean, the name of the country is the Savior, and it's very Catholic. And so to hear that these movements are successful even anywhere down there is very promising.
There's this I did not know, but it's on our fact sheet. I can put the link in the chat. But there were El Salvador people in El Salvador took the country to the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, challenging, because under human rights law and the UN Charter, the right to and Amnesty International, the right to abortion is an international human right. Okay, who defended the government of El Salvador? A branch of the American Center for Law and Justice, a right-wing think tank that was once headed by Trump lawyer Jay Sekulow.
No.
So, it was supported by 15 U.S. anti-abortion organizations. These same people that are these forces that are behind our laws, denying us our rights and our humanity, are working overtime, funding
other countries
that you're talking about.
That's weird. These people are so weird to me. I mean, like it reminds me of like the some sort of like pro LGBTQ law that was up for a vote or referendum in California, and how like the Mormon Church from Utah was dumping all sorts of money into California against it. Proposition 8, I think. Does that sound right? I don't know.
Yes.
And everybody's just like, why don't you just mind your own business? This is ridiculous. What are you doing in California when you're set in Utah? I mean, if you don't want it in Utah, then fight for it there. That's supposed to be one of the perks of states. Not to advocate the takedown of Roe, but I mean, is that like, not everybody always has to do it, if you will. The majorities within a smaller population can decide. You're nodding your head, Jay. Did you want to speak on that?
Well, you're pointing to the fallacy of their states decide.
Right. Exactly.
BS, right? I mean, they have a program in mind that if you want to dig deep and give yourself nightmares, is so much worse than I think most people can even imagine. It really is the Handmaid's Tale on steroids.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not going to them, they're not busybodies. They're doing the Lord's work.
Right.
And we are sinners, and we have no, I was watching an interview with a revolutionary communist, talking about I'm losing my thought here. Why do they think the elections were stolen? What's behind that craziness? Right. It's because to them, Black people, immigrants, uppity women who put Biden in power don't have a right to vote. They don't have a vote. They are illegitimate. Therefore,
Oh.
anyone that they elect, it's a stolen election because we don't count, which I think is really, really true. There's a logic to their craziness. I guess that's what.
Yeah, there's always some sort of like at least tenuous logic. It's just whether or not it works out, correctly. There's actual logic, and then there's fallacy. So but that's interesting. I never really thought of it that way. Like, it's not really like they think that the voting machines shut down or the mail-in ballots were rigged or anything like that, or the drop-off boxes were manipulated. It's because they think that the majority of the people who vote Democrat or vote left are illegitimate voters. Wow. Right?
I think it's
That's repulsive. Okay. Sarah, can you describe like kind of the inner workings of Rise Up for Abortion Rights? Is there a board? Is there issues that you vote on? Anything? What does it mean to be a member of this organization?
To be a member, it's really not that hard. You just kind of want to have a passion to be a part of us, to be honest. We do Zoom meetings like every 2 weeks or so, I'd say. And we get to like gather on those, and we discuss our next protests. We discuss what we'd like to like see next happen. We discuss, like we did Naperville Pride, like we discuss different events we could be at. But to be a part of it, honestly, you just have to want to join the movement, to be honest. And we're welcoming anybody. We want as many people to be a part of us as possible, because that's the only way, honestly.
Okay. So by the way, folks, here you go in the comments section. You have for some reason it posted twice, but that link to YouTube is a link to a video on your website, right? That explains, like a 4 or 5 minute video that explains how the whole organization got started and so on, the inner workings of it and so on, and that will lead you to that's on the website, right? Wait, let me. Oh, yeah, that's on the website, yeah.
yes.
So then once you're on the website, you can find like, signing up for membership and that kind of thing. Real quick, Marsha Ranan said, same democracy which carries through to red state interference with blue state swing state elections. That's true. So I want to talk a little bit about political shenanigans, especially from a third party position. Matthew Ho, who was the Green Party candidate in Virginia, was been on the show twice. He's coming on again in a couple of weeks. He didn't win, but he was very insightful as to like how the different parties react when third parties try to get on the ballot, and how utterly manipulative, deceptive, and sabotaging they are. So, for example, when he got people to sign the petition to get his name on the ballot, the Democratic Party caught wind of it and went around posing as Green Party members to the same houses, saying, actually, there was a mistake made. If you could take your name off the petition, please. What? They did what? I'm like, he's telling me this. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's insanity. But that's just how down and dirty this politics in this country gets. There's nothing very legitimate about the process. You might see little like spots of legitimacy, here and there, but the overall process is corrupt. It is biased. It is disjointed, and it is fallacious, and it is not anything that a democracy should be proud of at all.
I knew of Matthew Ho from anti-war days. I was very involved in trying to shut down Guantanamo, and I had a great deal of respect for him.
Yeah, he's great.
I saw those videos on Twitter of what they were doing to him. I think the limits of politics are the two parties that really represent differences within the ruling class. They don't represent the people. Are so constrained that it's shocking to see it, but you know it, right? And I would say, look at what happened to the caucus, the House. They're simply issuing the mildest, I'd say, mealy mouthed letter saying, gee, could we think about negotiations in Ukraine? And who stabbed them in the back? Democrats.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, he twisted the knife. That's the price of admission. If you're going to be a political elected on the national level in the biggest imperialist power in the world, you don't get to talk like that. And they were being taught a lesson there. And it's really it's outrageous. And I would hope that progressive people who put all of their hopes into that forum would draw the correct lessons from it, because it's not going to happen there. It's the price of admission is to sell your soul, to stay in the game, and that's what they've done. And now we're headed towards we're NATO, the U.S. Russia are playing chicken with nuclear weapons.
Right. It's terrifying. Yeah, no, it's totally terrifying.
Yeah. They don't want somebody like Matthew Ho in there.
No, I know, like exactly. And he worked for the Pentagon after he got out of Afghanistan. He worked for the Pentagon, and then he said, "I'm done. This is nonsense." And good for him. That's a great guy. Yeah, he's going to be on, I think, the Monday of the week of Thanksgiving, I believe. So I think a week from next Monday. And we're going to talk about the election, the results, how it all went down there, lessons learned, that kind of thing. So he's a very intelligent, articulate person too, by the way. Very, very much a pleasure to have him on. I was good. I just lost my train of thought. All right, Sarah, do you want to say something? I had like a cool question and then I forgot it.
I was going to say, with our group, we do have a couple events that are coming up as well, protest-wise. So we do have November 25th is our next event. So that's the International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women. So pretty much that goes back to the forced motherhood. It's an act of violence on women, like to be forced to carry a baby. You can die. That's a threat on your life itself. So we really link in with that. And, we chose that day because of that very reason. And we're calling it pretty much like turning Black Friday to Green Friday instead.
Oh, that's cool. That would be a wonderful switch. Like turn it off, get it from buying like just massive consumerism to like actually investing in the health of the planet. And
price, not deals.
Yes, exactly. Real quick, Marsha Ranan said, also, I think RU4AR, I don't know what that is appealing and effective because it's a very simple message that speaks to such a wide segment of, yet it can be a spearhead to protect so many other rights. What's RU4AR? What is that?
Rise Up for Abortion Rights.
Oh, it's just abbreviation.
An acronym.
Thank you. I've always struggled with acronyms. I need it spelled out or I don't get it. Okay,
cool. Me too.
That's very cool. I just want to say like how impressive it is. But I read on your website when I'm hearing from you that what I didn't know is that RU4AR started in January of this year, I guess, right? Is that what you said? And how hugely it's going, how wonderfully it's going. The shutting downs and then the going into like churches and like, just pissing them off and like all these other things. Like there's a lot of like political activist organizations that have been around for like decades that aren't doing anything nearly as effective. Does that make sense?
That's why we exist, honestly.
Yeah.
Because they weren't doing anything. They're so enthralled to the electoral path, to the Democratic Party. And look, we need abortion providers. We need abortion funds. That it's very real, very vital. but we're not going to restore the right to abortion without a political resistance movement. And that did not exist. That's why Rise Up for Abortion Rights. And, you know, Sarah was out there with a bullhorn, right? I mean,
Real?
like, there are thousands of young women who want, you know, who, like Sarah was saying before on the thing, who are crying when they lost their right to abortion. But, you know, who's putting the bullhorn in their hands here saying, yes, they're the future. That's what we're trying to do, is to reach. And I really hope people who are watching this, go to riseuporabortionrights.org, sign up, get involved, come. We're going to be meeting on November 25th at the corner of State and Wacker. And then we're going to be turning State Street green.
Nice.
We've got lots of stuff to do. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be challenging. We're calling people out. No, don't tell us, yeah, you support us, and then just sit there with your charge card going to Target. No, you got to be in the street. There's other agitators who do much better at that than I do. And then on December 1st, we're going to be at courthouses, federal courthouses around the country.
Nice.
Because that's the anniversary of when we knew the axe was falling. It was December 1st. That was the oral arguments on the Supreme Court. And a year later, the emergency is only heightened. We're beginning to see how disastrous this is, and we're refusing to accept it. It's illegitimate, and we're calling on people to come out and to protest. And there will be meeting at Federal Plaza in downtown Chicago at 4 p.m. for a rally, and then we'll be marching. We'll be marching up State Street, Michigan Avenue. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, we're gonna be out there. So go to the website, sign up. You put a zip code in the Chicago area, and you'll hear all what we're doing.
Very cool. Yeah. Do you have any? I mentioned, I want to say this a little differently than how I mentioned it before. Like, I asked you if you had any connections with like higher ups in politics, but do you have, and you said no, not really, but do you have any support in even local politics from local politicians? Anybody from the organization saying, hey, this is great?
Haven't really gone out for that.
Okay.
We have, well, Sarah mentioned we were at the Neighbor Pride Fest, which was really great. We really appreciated the welcome that we got there. We are now launching a program to connect with teachers and college professors and youth groups to talk about their future, what's at stake with the right to abortion. There's a lot of liberal passive support that's got to become active.
Yeah.
And that's a combination of, of reaching out and bringing into the streets. So we're doing both. That's the way we see it. We're taught in this country to look up. The people up there, they're going to solve it. And we're looking out. We're looking out to the millions of people and scrambling to reach them. So if you're watching this and you are active in your congregation or your school, write us at Chicago at riseuporabortionrights.org, and let's connect. Let's talk about how we can get materials to you. We have like stickers, bandanas, posters to put in your window. Everybody is needed, and everybody can be part of the Green Wave.
Does anybody from your organization do like town hall stuff, media lectures, anything like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. So let's talk about that maybe after the show, because I think I have some ideas for you.
Great.
Yeah. We only have a couple minutes left. Sarah, is anything you want to say? Kind of like not so final words.
I think I had not so final words, I guess. is people need to get into the streets. People need to be joining our protests. People need to be demanding our rights back, because if not, they're just going to keep taking and taking and taking. And it's not just your rights on the line, it's your life on the line. And if you think about it, everybody knows a woman. Everybody loves a woman in their life. Like, you don't want to see anything bad happen to them. Why would you force a pregnancy on them that could kill them? So everybody's part of this fight. People think they're not, because, oh, I'm a guy. Oh, I don't have a say. No, we need your say to say this. We deserve our rights. We deserve our choice in our body.
100% true. Yeah, and I think I wanted to say earlier too that I think that the notion of a rights to abortion is actually part of a bigger right, which is bodily autonomy. That everybody should have the right to do with their body what they wish, because it does belong to them. The notion that the state or a government owns your body is terrifying, and it's not forced labor, but it damn well may as well be. And that ties in a lot, like the trans issue going on right now, topic going on right now. It's the same thing. Well, I mean, the under 18, the kids, that's different, but I mean, that has to do with, that's between you, your parents, and your doctors still. But as an adult, if you want to have these surgeries or hormonal therapies, that's fine. Go ahead. It's your body. And same thing with abortion. Like there are good moral reasons to have them when the health and the vitality of the mother is at risk. Or for what other reasons. It could be economic reasons as well. Sometimes, mistakes are made and women get pregnant on accident. And that's no reason to like destroy anybody's life, because of a couple seconds of, pleasure overriding your senses. I don't know, but, whatever the case may be, but, bodily autonomy is extremely important. Like philosophically speaking, there's really only two what I consider to be legitimate forms of property. Like what conceptually counts as property. And the first and foremost one is your body. This is mine. This is mine, not anybody else's. And that ties into like policing and grabbing you and doing there's all sorts of stuff out there. And the second one would be your labor, that which your body produces. It belongs to you too. Anyway, that's just a little philosophical thing, but the clarification of concepts in all these issues is extremely important. We need to know what we're talking about and what are we basing these topics upon, because they come down to basically like principles, standards of reasoning. You want to say something?
Well, the Christian fascists are they're perfectly happy to support bodily autonomy to oppose wearing a mask in the middle of a pandemic or getting vaccinated. Yeah. They have no problem with bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
They don't want women to control when and if they have children, because that's central to controlling what you're going to do with your life.
Right, exactly.
Before Roe, I mean, it was part of a whole lot of things going on, but before Roe, less than 10% of law students were women. Now, the majority of law students are women. It's not an accident. If you can't control, it is an economic issue. It's a social issue. It's a political, it's a philosophical, it's an emotional issue. If you can't decide what you're going to, when and if you're going to have children, that is, in this society, that is a 20, 30-year commitment. That's your life. Okay. So, and that's what it's about. It's about controlling women. That is what
100%,
it's
100%.
Taking revenge at uppity women. You saw it on Fox News, they were talking about that. Who elected all these Democrats? Independent women, single women. That's the problem.
They need to be married.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah,
no, it's really it's terrifying, and like patriarchy. Like I wish we had longer. We don't, but I mean, patriarchy is something that it needs to be discussed. We should have a whole show just on patriarchy versus matriarchy versus egalitarianism.
I would love to.
Let's talk about that after the show. Do you know the number one profession with the most amount of domestic abuse is? Policing.
Yeah. Do you know what the number one cause of death? The number one cause of death of pregnant women? Murder.
By men?
Typically almost always by their intimate partner. That's another.
Death is murder?
And now that's even going to be higher because there's no out. There's no escape. There's no abortion, right?
No.
Seriously. And I wasn't sure, so I just looked it up again. And yes, it is true.
Holy cow! That just made my stomach turn. Like literally, that doesn't sit well. That's
You
terrifying.
want to talk about female and
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good place to leave it at. Because we definitely got to have you back on sooner than later, and talk more about this because it's and stick around till after the thing ends and we'll chat about that. So thank you so much, Jay Becker, Sarah Schwartz. Thank you from Rise Up for Abortion Rights. Are you for AR?
and thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, again, stick around and we'll talk a little bit about some other stuff. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into the Illinois Green Party. I'm your host, David Rich. Till next time, be good, be green.